Greetings, hello, good morning, and welcome. We are Crypto for Joe, cryptocurrency and blockchain ideas for your average Joe. Speaking this morning with Cayman Nava. Cayman, how are you?
I'm doing very well.
So I'm curious, something that you can, you have a unique take on and can help me to understand and us to understand. What is your approach on programming? In other words, you're a programmer, you're an elite Ethereum programmer. How does that differ from other types of programmer? I want to hear what your approach to programming is, and I'd like to hear if are there differences between programming in the Ethereum network and programming in other networks. Are there sociological differences in the programmers versus other, obviously old school guys have been programming some of them for 30, 40 years. But can you walk through some of your philosophies about programming and some of the differences between a programmer for other types of spaces and versus the blockchain and or Ethereum space?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the sociological difference is probably one worth touching on. I think in the blockchain ecosystem, from the protocol developers through dApp developers and DeFi developers, there's a lot more, it's a lot more open, a lot more collaborative by necessity than would be like at a company writing some software product, because you kind of have to, at least in Ethereum, I'm working on protocol development, and there's a lot of different teams writing very similar software with their own niche. And so by necessity, you're having to and wanting to learn from these guys. You're wanting to be interoperating with them and seeing what they're up to. You're sharing knowledge. You're getting a bunch of knowledge.
If there are breakthroughs or momentum's going, you want to ride that little wave.
Right. You want to have a really good pulse on all of that. And likewise, I think the same goes for people writing DeFi apps and things like that, because DeFi is so interconnected. It's not just one application standalone. It's like, every DeFi app probably hooks into, 4, 5, 6, 7 other DeFi apps. And so, if you're in that space, it's highly competitive. And if you're not, making the most of that money, then you're probably going to be falling behind to someone who is watching what everyone else is doing. I think, I think traditional kind of corporate software development is a little more siloed. You're working on some widget, and kind of the rest of the world is blocked out.
If somebody else finds out about it, they can steal it and go program it and beat you. So aside from the sharing, is there any difference with regards to programming with Ethereum versus other protocols?
I think there may be maybe the breadth of knowledge, breadth of things that you're working on is probably a little wider than in other industries or in other places. So to kind of go back to this kind of corporate, programming, I think, you're probably going to be fairly focused on, you may be doing like a web design or web app. And like a lot of times when you're doing that, like you're not having to go super deep into, really hardcore algorithms or trying to speed things up. Really, it's like, you're just trying to get like the button to show up, and when the user clicks it, it sends their billing information to the server. And it's like a, kind of a pretty standard flow of like, collect their users' information, get their money, send it back to home base. And I get the feeling that blockchain has kind of a breadth of things you're working on. So like, it's good to have at least a cursory knowledge of cryptography, hopefully, a deeper knowledge of how some of these things work, because we're using all sorts of established, up and coming, and futuristic cryptography, and you either have to find someone who's implemented that, or possibly implement it yourself if it's not out there. Another thing is that blockchains are pretty computationally intensive, and so performance is much more of a concern in blockchain programming than in some other types of programming.
So it's got to be super economical, and you got to really use the building blocks in a very elementary manner to get everything running as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Right. I mean, if your program is slow, then the people who are running your software might be losing money. Right. So, if you're running an Ethereum validator, if it's not, collecting as much data as it can and producing the best output, you're probably leaving money on the table.
All right. Good information, man. And it's an interesting, because you don't get to hear it everywhere. And I enjoy that type of information because, you look ahead, 5-10 years, not even that long, but several years, your numbers will probably multiply 10 times or 100 times, people programming for the blockchain space. So it's good to get some good. It's good to get some good early feedback on that. Thank you, sir. And we will check you out soon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.